Hey you guys, I am recording another video for my A Gamer's Wife vlog channel because I happen to be wearing makeup. Chris from Fish for Thought is about to celebrate 100k subscribers, although he may have already passed it by the time this video comes out, and he asked me to be a part of his celebration skit, so you guys will have to watch out for that. I'll link it below if it is already out. But since I already have makeup, I figured I'd do a quick vlog on one of my other hobbies, which is reading. I have always loved to read ever since I was a little kid. In fact, my parents used to say, well, that's why you're so blind, not really, nearsighted, because you read so much in the dark and you don't turn on the lights. Well, A, that had nothing to do with it. My nearsightedness is totally genetic. My entire family has glasses, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I have large eyes, is because my eye doctor says my eyes are physically just larger than normal, and so it makes the focal length wrong, and that's why I'm so nearsighted. So I've had glasses since I was in first grade. I probably should have had them earlier, but it wasn't until my teachers caught it that it became a thing. Anyways, I'm actually part of a book club, and it's really cool because every single month is a different genre. So I've been going through a lot of books recently. Okay, the genre for July was Westerns, and I definitely do not read Western books. I've only seen a couple of Western movies. My in-laws actually love Westerns, so it's kind of funny. But the book was The Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, which I will put book covers over here, and it won a Nobel Prize, I believe, and is very famous. It's huge and involves like a ton of characters. Kind of the main characters basically are traveling from Texas and bringing cattle to Montana for the first time because there are settlers there now and they want beef, right? And all the troubles they go through. And I would say that kind of made, I guess, a more realistic impression of the Wild West back then, when you still had, I guess, Texas was still recovering from wars against Mexico, and then they were also fighting Native Americans for their land. So there's a lot of that conflict going on. There is just, life in general is really hard. People, spoilers, not really, just die nonstop. It's definitely a recurring theme of how hard it was back then. I think Larry, the author, was trying to get rid of some of this fantasy that people had of the Wild West, and he came from a ranching family and wanted to show people like just how hard exactly life was. But it was very good, if not a very realistic / pessimistic look at life, in which, you know, people die for no reason at all, but again, just a lot of interesting characters, and there's a side story that goes on as well. So definitely recommend, if there's only one Western book that you would read, this is a good one, but again, it's a hefty book to sink your teeth in. The August genre was summer beach reads, since it was the end of summer, and so we did the Winter in Paradise series by Ellen Hilderbrand, or rather, 2 out of the books in her trilogy. The third one hasn't released, and will be releasing in October of this year, so I'm already on hold for that book. But yeah, it was a typical beach read. Not a lot of deep thinking about this one. A lot of action, intrigue, mystery, where basically the main character, or the wife's name, is Irene, and she has 2 adult sons. And so it's kind of cool. I don't think I've ever read a book that had even a character named Irene, much less a main character. So Irene's husband mysteriously dies in a helicopter crash in St. John's, and then they basically they go to St. John's and find out, like, oh, the husband has been leading this kind of double life the whole time, and what's going on, and, you know, why did he die, and was it actually just a helicopter crash, or was there some other nefarious thing going on? The FBI get involved. So yeah, sometimes you just, after Lonesome Dove, you need something that's just light and fluffy, and you can read really quickly, even if you're half asleep, because this is typically where I read when I'm about to go to sleep. It's kind of like my security blanket. I read a few chapters, and then I get really groggy, and then I go to sleep. So I definitely am looking forward to seeing how she wraps up the trilogy, because a lot happened in the first book, And the second book was kind of a little bit slower, so they've got a lot to cover in the third book. But after that, I'll know whether I like the whole series or not. Now, in the midst of all this, the Bible study that I was doing for devotional time was Beth Moore's Living Beyond Yourself, basically going through some Bible verses about the fruit of the Spirit. And yeah, I was doing it by myself. There's actually a video series that goes along with it. You're normally supposed to do it, I guess, in a Bible study setting with a bunch of people. But yeah, if you were looking for a workbook, basically, where there's a ton of looking up Bible verses and filling out blanks and questions, kind of a more in-depth Bible study, then this is for you. The way I got through it was by just using an online Bible where you could type in multiple verses, like 10 at a time, and then they would all be on screen for you to reference for the questions. And it definitely took me a long time. I actually started this 6 years ago, and I'm only now done with it. And it was definitely very good. I am lacking in a lot of areas like patience and self-control and gentleness and a lot of areas. So I know what I need to work on. It was just kind of a good reminder and really delving into the character of God and how I want to be more like him. So the final book I want to talk about is for September. So technically for September, it was the genre of children's literature. So we're actually doing the first two Mary Poppins books. But the book I had actually picked in the vote was called Holes. And I believe there's a movie out for it by Louis Satcher. And it's really, really good. It's actually probably meant for, I don't know, 10 to 13-year-old kids. And it is centered around a bunch of boys that have to go to a juvenile correction facility where they just dig a giant hole in this dry desert wasteland in Texas every single day. And then you find out, maybe they're not just digging holes to build character. Maybe they're actually looking for something. And that is the mystery. And I was just so surprised that I so enjoyed this children's book. I'm trying to think why it was so good. I think the reason why it's so good is even though it had the trappings of a boy, again, for the middle school age, but it had a lot of elements that actually took from fairy tales. There's a generational curse that gets passed down, and how do you break that curse? And so, yeah, even though it was technically like modern trappings, it really was following a lot of those age-old good storytelling techniques using kind of elements from a fairy tale. So I really enjoyed it. I love retellings of fairy tales into modern day settings. This was not based on any specific fairy tale at all, but I highly, highly recommend it, especially if you have kids. This would be a good book, I feel like, to read along with them. I mean, definitely it's a chapter book. It's not going to have pictures in it at all, but even as an adult, I really enjoyed it. I ripped through it in like a couple of days. So I hope you like this really quick book review. I'll definitely I have a whole stack of books over here, so I'll try to keep better track of which ones I read, which ones I liked. In general, I tend to watch movies, TV shows, and read books that have a happier ending and not kind of sad, melancholy, bittersweet plots. I was once part of another book club where the hostess really, really liked sad books that would make her cry because it was cathartic for her. She was kind of a more less emotional kind of person, and so she didn't cry very often. I'm like, no, I do not need that in my life. Life is already hard enough. I want to read happy books that make me laugh and smile and cheer me up and encourage me. So if you'd like to read those kind of books, hopefully you will enjoy some of my future book reviews. And definitely leave in the comments any cool books that you would recommend for that kind of reader. All right, hope you have tons of fun trying out and reading new books, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.